Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And hi everyone. To all of you, good morning. Okay, who are following us now from the Zoom and the CADe YouTube channel. Welcome to our webinar brought to you by the Center of Academic Development, CADe UPM. I'm Hafiza Mokhtar, your moderator for today's session. We are glad to have with us today Dr. Masnida Muhammad as our speaker. How are you, Dr. Mas?
I'm good, Alhamdulillah. How are you, Dr. Mafiza?
Yeah, I'm fine. I hope that all of us are all today fine and safe. Okay. Before we begin, for Muslim, let's ask for His mercy to allow this webinar go smooth and beneficial for all of us. Al-Fatiha. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, a variety of teaching techniques can actually be curated, such as problem-based learning, case study, inquiry-based learning, expression learning, service-based learning, and also the passion-based learning. Okay, as you can maybe wonder what's inside of our title for today, which is PrIDe, passion-based learning. So I will introduce a little bit about PrIDe. Okay, it's actually an acronym for Putra Innovative Delivery, okay, which is a collection of delivery techniques which are innovative and creative, brought by the UPM educators. And one of the techniques, which is passion-based learning, will be discussed and explained, I think, very well by our speaker today, which is Dr. Masnida Hambari. Okay, I think all of us are now eager to know what's inside the interesting topic for today. But let me introduce you first with our speaker. Dr. Masnida Hambari is a senior lecturer in instructional technologies, learning design and innovation at the Department of Foundation of Education, Faculty of Educational Studies. She is a fellow at the Center for Academic Development and was a member of Innovative Teaching and Learning Task Force that developed the Putra Innovative Playbook for Putra Academic Transformation Plan. So one of it is on the passion-based learning. Her research interests and specialization include instructional design, innovation and emerging technologies in teaching and learning, gamification, alternative assessment, and the scholarship of teaching and learning. Wow, what an amazing research, Dr. Mas. She is currently the Executive Committee of the Prestige Asia Pacific Society for Computers in Education as EPSI, and is actively involved in the special interest group, practice-driven research, teacher professional development and policy of ICT in education under the EPSI flagship conference, the International Conference on Computers in Education since 2014. Masnida has actively participated and won several medals at innovative teaching and learning competitions at both the university and national level. She was awarded the Putra Innovative Award for Best Innovative Educator, Face-to-Face Immersive Learning Experience in 2019, and the Vice Chancellor Fellowship Award in Teaching and Learning in 2020. Congrats, Dr. Mas. Okay. Masnida is currently the coordinator of University's Virtual and Immersive Learning Hub, which promotes immersive and discovery learning to sustain learners' interest through 21st century technologies and interactive learning environment. So without further ado, okay, I'll pass this microphone to Dr. Mas. Welcome, Dr. Mas.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank Dr. Mafiza for the introduction. And I also would like to take this opportunity to thank the Center for Academic Development, okay, for having me as the speaker for PrIDe webinar, the first PrIDe webinar on passion-based learning as one of the online continuous professional development series this year. Nevertheless, I am humbled to share some of my experience with you all today. So I'm happy to see we have quite a number of participants here on Zoom, and we also have a number of participants on YouTube. So thank you so much for taking your time to join this sharing session with me. All right. So through my sharing session today, I hope you will be able to explore and identify your own passion in teaching, discover ways to explore students' passion in learning, and finally, you're able to implement strategies to unleash students' passion in learning. Let me turn on my laser pointer. All right. So, first of all, I'd like to know why are you here today? Okay, you can respond in the chat box, or you can also just unmute your microphone and tell me or share with all of us why are you here today. Right. Any responses from the participants? Okay, so maybe, I don't know if there's a participants responding in YouTube. Okay, let me see. Okay, Dr. Muhammad Kaizi says he wants to be more passionate about learning. All right, so thank you for your response, Dr. Kaizi. So about learning and teaching, all right. Okay, Prof. Latif mentioned that he wants to learn more about patient-based learning. It sounds so interesting and similar to our work with youth in out-of-time settings. Okay, Dr. Alicia says that she would like to know more about passionate learning. Okay, so thank you so much for your sharing. Out of school time settings, I mean, okay, all right. So out of school time settings. Okay, so thank you, Prof. Latif, for your responses. Thank you, Dr. Alicia, Dr. Kaizi, for your responses. All right, so I believe that we all are here. We are all here because we want to know, we want to improve ourselves, yeah, as educators, right, or as teachers. I like to use the term teachers because we are, after all, we're all teachers, right? So trying to move to the next slide. Okay, so I'm sure that we all can agree to what combination says. Okay, so ensuring rock solid clarity about where we want our students to end up as a result of a sequence of learning is fundamental to educational success. And remembering that we cannot reach the mind that we did not engage should be a daily compass for educational planning. So why we are here? Because we want to be a better educator, we want to be a better teacher, we want to plan our lessons, all right? We want to plan our lessons so that our lessons can be interesting and we can engage our students in our lessons. So this is a strong justification that instructor's role or teacher's role is prominent to ensure that the learning objectives are successfully delivered and hence successfully achieved by our students, right? So over the years, yeah, we have witnessed paradigm shifts in education. So from traditional education to visionary education. So for traditional education, we mostly prepare our students for industrialization. But now for visionary education, yeah, we are actually trying to prepare our students for the fourth industrial revolution. So what shifts have we seen over the years? Okay, what we can see is that learning has become more interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary, right? And we are always looking for ways to engage our students in multimodal inquiry. So all of this, yeah, okay, can be achieved through holistic units of active learning and deep inquiry. All right. So what are the shifts that we can see? Okay, we can see the shifts in terms of pedagogy, tools, and content. So I would say that these shifts are actually similar to the TPAC, okay, technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge TPAC, right? So I believe most of our educators in BPM, we are familiar with what TPAC is, right? So these are the shifts that happen over the years. So let's look at pedagogy. Yeah? So in terms of pedagogy. So we can see that rote tasks are now being replaced with deep and powerful learning. Right? So learning that used to be 1 mile wide and 1 inch deep are now an inch wide but a mile deep. Right? Furthermore, okay, we can also see that evaluations are mostly replaced with formative assessments because we want to be able to know our students' progress. We want to be able to give feedback to our students and help our students to become better learners, right? And what we can see, yeah, what we can observe in nowadays is that students are given the opportunity to show or to demonstrate their knowledge acquisition through novel ways. Okay, not only through pen and pencil examination or MCQ questions. Okay, there are novel ways for students to demonstrate their knowledge acquisition. So how about the content, right? So if we traditionally, we always see that teachers are the ones who share their knowledge, right? But now in the new shift, we are bringing rich lives, okay? Students' rich lives outside of the classroom. Okay, they are living rich lives. We only know a little bit of them. Yeah, outside of the classroom, students have a lot of rich experiences that they can actually bring into the classroom. So when they are able to grow foundational content knowledge, they can actually bring this foundational content knowledge, and they can actually practice their soft skills. Okay, we can shape their soft skills in the classroom. Okay, they will turn into students who are mindful and they are more connected with their classmates, connected with the lesson, connected with the teachers, right? Through the shifts in content. All right, and finally, it's about the tools. Okay, so tools. So I can say that nowadays we can see a lot of technological advances, and these technological advances actually offer novel affordances to engage learners and enable teachers to quickly collect feedback and pivot on their instructions. So, for example, a teacher can actually get a baseline reading of the student understanding, and they can also maximize the class time by focusing on areas that need strengthening, okay, that students need strengthening, or those that are innately interesting to the learners. So I'd like to also highlight that tools are just tools, but they can become transformative in the hands of the teachers, okay? In the hands of thoughtful teachers, right? So these tools provide a template for rich experiences that enable students to connect with experts or other people around the globe, and that allow for dynamic feedback that can drive inquiry in the classroom. According to Portnoy, right, there are also shifts in cultural tools. Okay, if you know Vygotsky, he is a theorist. Okay? He said that human learning, okay, is co-constructed, okay, within the specific social and cultural norms of the learner. Okay, the difference between what the learners can do without assistance of anybody and what they can accomplish with the help of a more knowledgeable other is referred as the zone of proximal development. So who is that knowledgeable other? So definitely in the classroom, the knowledgeable other is the teachers or us, the academicians, right? So the more knowledgeable other, the teachers, right, they could scaffold students' understanding to reach the upper limits of students' zone, okay, through the use of cultural tools. Okay, so what does he mean by cultural tools? Okay, so it could be something that is abstract or something that is more concrete, like technology. It can be digital or non-digital technologies. Okay, and these tools are changing the ways that we can engage with the world. Okay, so visionary educators or visionary teachers who can leverage on these new tools are curating content so that the students can really receive information that are relevant, timely, and developmental, okay, for them. So when the students see themselves as makers and as the creators of content, so they can actually, okay, improve themselves. Okay, they can experience the shifts in the education. Okay. These shifts have set stage for new pedagogies to emerge, right? So one of the pedagogies that emerge is passion-based learning, all right? Anyway, if you have questions, you can drop your questions in the chat box. Okay, I think Dr. Mahfuza will read your questions or she will alert me of the questions and I can answer the questions whenever possible, all right? So what is passion and why does it matter? Anybody wants to try or anybody wants to share with all of us? Okay, what is passion? Or what do you know or how do you perceive passion? So you can put it in the chat box. Okay, let's see if anybody wants to respond to what they understand about passion or what they know or how they perceive passion. Okay, Dr. Fauzia, deep interest. Okay, that is passion. Different people have different perspectives of passion. I think this is good, deep interest. How about the others? A deep and sincere affinity or interest for something or someone. Okay, thank you, Prof. Latif. Dr. Juniza, passion is enthusiasm. Okay, affectionate, says Dr. Kaizi. Dr. Suryana, excitement. Okay, Dr. Sharifin, the motivation to wake up and go to work. Okay, that is also passion. Prof. Noroki, commitment. Passion is commitment. Dr. Alicia says that passion is religion. Okay, nice, interesting responses from the members of the floor. Okay, I've never thought of passion is religion, but I think that is an interesting response. Passion is satisfying. That is true. Yeah, passion is satisfying. Okay, so thank you so much for the responses, Prof. Aliani and all the others. Okay, Dr. Chan, things we do without complaint, even if we face lots of challenges. Yeah, that is also true. Okay. Maybe for me, sometimes I complain a little bit, but I will still do it. Okay, passion is Shukri. Dr. Shukri, passion is hobby. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I received a lot of interesting responses. Okay, Prof. Iqbal, passion means you go the extra mile. Okay, all right. That's nice. Okay, I think your responses somewhat speaks or resonates what is defined by Mayers and Sandvold, yeah? Right. So Mayers and Sandvold says that passion, okay, stands for perseverance, action-driven, strength-building, sustainable, inclusive, ownership, and never-ending. Okay, these are somewhat related to all the responses that I received in the chat box. Thank you so much. So what does it mean by perseverance? So let's look at the meaning of passion. Yeah. So the Latin origin of the word comes from passio, which means suffering. Suffer. Yeah? Okay. Suffering, as we know, is painful, but passionate learners combine fun, playfulness, and discipline, and at the same time, they can accept the necessity for endurance and perseverance. Okay. And the second one, action-driven. Okay, action-driven. We can see that passion is not passive, but it is about pursuit. Okay, you want to achieve something. Okay, so we can see that people with passion are usually driven to pursue and to create. Yeah, they are driven to do that. Okay, they can read books just like us. They like to observe others, but they cannot stand just being a bystander, just by reading books or just by observing others. They want to pursue something. Okay, so they usually have this overwhelming urge to engage, experience, and test their own capabilities. Okay, for something that they're passionate or interested in. Okay. As strength building, yeah. Okay. Actually, when you want to elicit deep passions for something, it requires strength. Okay, like somebody mentioned just now, yeah, it needs a lot. You do something without complaint. You go to work. Okay, being able to wake up and go to work, it requires strength. Yeah, So it sometimes takes enormous strength and willpower to overcome obstacles, but passion usually gives us strength to continue forward. So passionate people are at the same time humble, okay, because they know that what they're doing, they're actually standing on the shoulders of giants. Yeah, they actually know what they're doing has been done by somebody else, but they want to improve it or make something better out of it. Yeah. And they also gain strength from the examples of others. So they look at how other people do, so they want to do it, and they gain strength from that, right? So let's look at the second S, which is sustainable. So what is sustainable? Okay. Sustainable is the endurance with an edge of obsession. When you're passionate about something, you might be obsessed of it, actually. So it may take hours of doing something to the point of physical and mental exhaustion. Okay, you may be tired of doing it, but you are always compelled to do so. You are driven to do it. Okay, so that is the second S. How about inclusive? Okay, so if we look at the traits of passionate learners, yeah, they like to ask a lot of questions and have developed their own questioning disposition. Okay. Usually it is their passions that fuels new and better questions, and this builds stronger muscles of inquiry, right? Because they keep on practicing it. So they build stronger muscles of inquiry. Sometimes they can tolerate not knowing the answer, but they still feel the urge or the need to find out about something that they are interested in. Okay, and let's look at ownership. The ownership. So passionate learners always have the self-affirmation of believing in what they do, owning their decisions. Yeah, they believe in something and they want to own their decision. If this sense of ownership becomes a responsibility and the mission to pursue excellent work. Okay? And finally, N is never ending. Okay? Perfection is never achieved when you are passionate about something. Okay? You may came across some failures, but you 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 still have the need or the urge to move forward. Yeah, because passion is a lifelong pursuit. Okay, so you may rest for a while. Okay, sleep, rest. You put your passion aside for a while, but it never dies. You always have that interest in that something. Okay. All right. So where do we start when we want to conduct passion-based learning? How do we instill passion in learning? Okay, well, I actually came across Hodgkin's quote in his book about Born Curious. Yeah. So he said that not all children enjoy school. Okay. At one point in my life, I also did not enjoy school. Okay. But we are all born curious. Okay, we are all born curious. There is always something that we want to know. Okay, there is always something that we want to uncover, discover, we want to reveal, right? So I think we have to challenge this idiom that says curiosity kills the cat. Okay, I would like to cross this out and change it to curiosity feeds the cat. Okay, like Prof. Alani says, okay, it is satisfying. Okay, when you're curious, you want to know about something. Okay, you go find out and you get that satisfaction. Okay, so you get that sense of accomplishment. Okay, when you achieve something that you are passionate about. Okay, so it actually feeds the cat's interest and passion, and curiosity actually quenches the cat's thirst for new knowledge of its interests and strength. Right?
Dr. Mas, sorry for interrupting.
Sure. Yeah.
Second Smith from FSKT and also have here. He asked, is it related to active learning? Is this passion-based learning related to active learning?
Is it related to active learning? All right. So thank you so much for the question. I would say that passion-based learning is somewhat a combination of active learning, inquiry-based learning, problem-based learning, and project-based learning. Yeah. All right. So thank you so much for the question. I was about to go to that point in a little bit. But I will share further what I think about it, or what I've read, what I've consolidated from my experience, my readings about passion-based learning in a little bit. All right. Okay. So we have known what is passion, but what about passion-based learning? Yeah. So let's look at this. All right. So this actually concurs with the question. Yeah. So passion-based learning is the process of facilitating learning by harnessing and focusing on students' passion as well as creating passions within the students. So it doesn't have to be the students' passion all the time. We can also create passion or ignite passion in our students. Okay, this means that teachers can identify the students' passion and use their passion to stimulate their interest and engagement in the course curriculum. Okay. And the primary benefit of incorporating the passion-based learning strategy is that it enables students to tackle their work, homework, coursework, okay, by working from their strengths and interest with active learning. So it involves active engagement and participation in their own learning. All right. Okay, so passion or strength-based learning, okay, I would like to see it as strength-based learning, or we can, as we all know today, we call it as passion-based learning. So it is based on the idea that if you really want to get to know your students, you first need to find out what they are passionate about, all right? So how do we turn our classroom from boring to engaging? Students need a voice in the education so that they feel valued, and passion-based learning motivates and engages students because it's about them. Okay? It's not us. It's not about the teacher or the educators. Yeah, it's about the students. Okay? We want to involve students as decision makers. We want to give voice to students. And finally, we want them to become lifelong learners. So it's the students who become the decision makers, not the teachers. All right. And the teachers, how about the teacher's role? Okay, the teacher's role, okay, it requires less teaching but more of guiding. Okay, like what is proposed by Vygotsky. Okay, teachers are the knowledgeable other who can guide the students to go higher. All right. So perhaps one thing that we can ask ourselves, yeah, how will your students remember you, or how will our students remember us, and how do we want to be remembered as a teacher or educator? All right. So I think this is important for us to remember that we cannot expect our students to care about the lessons if we ourselves are not passionate about teaching it. So this is a very good reminder for all of us as teachers. Yeah. So what's your passion in teaching? Right? So what's your passion in teaching? Okay. Does anybody want to share their passion in teaching? Perhaps in the chat box, or you can also unmute if you want to respond. Let's see if we can get some responses on in the chat box or on YouTube. So what's your passion in teaching? All right, as for me, my passion would be something related to my expertise. Yeah, for instance, all the course that I'm teaching. Okay, I'm teaching educational technology at the Faculty of Educational Studies. So my passion would be in educational technology. All right, so Prof. Aliani says that getting students to be hungry for more. All right, so students yearn for more information, okay, more knowledge. Okay, that's nice. Okay. How about the others? Thank you so much, Prof. Aliani, for your response. Okay. Anyway, I think maybe you have not thought of anything yet, or maybe you are reserving your thoughts for later. Okay, so that's fine. So I think it's a good response by Prof. Alani, getting students to be hungry for more. That is true. We want our students to ask more from us. So that's a good indicator when our students say they want to know more. Okay, that means they have invested interest in our subject or in the lessons. Yeah. All right. So there are three questions that can drive passion-based learning. Okay, what will I learn? What will I solve? And what will I create? Okay. All right. So thank you so much, Dr. Abda, sharing experience related to lecture objectives. Okay, thank you so much for your response too. All right. So how do we get our students to do this? Yeah. So perhaps we can ask ourselves these three questions. Okay. Or ask our students or think that our students are thinking of these questions. Yeah, how will I learn? How will I solve? What will I solve? And what will I create? So if you look at the Malaysia's Ministry of Education, yeah, they aspire to produce a generation of creators, not merely consumers. So it is our job, yeah, to make sure we achieve this aspiration. How do we make our students a generation of creators and not merely consumers? Okay? They did not just receive what is being taught to them, but they can create something out of their knowledge gained in our classroom. So what passion-based learning can do? Passion-based learning can create a sense of urgency. Okay, when there is a sense of urgency, we feel passionate about something. So this urgency is the enemy of apathy, complacency, and procrastination. When we have urgency, we have the urge to do something, right? So how do we create the sense of urgency, okay, among our students? How do we do that? Okay. And then second one is provide focus. So when we feel passionate about something, okay, it provides us with a source of energy, yeah, that enables us to survive any setbacks or challenges that comes along the way. Okay. And the third one is it ignites curiosity. Okay, as we know, learners, okay, especially champion learners, good learners, yeah, they are usually curious about everything. They're curious about this, they're curious about that. They have a lot of questions that they ask us, okay. They are always involved in all stages of learning, right? They don't really worry about the answers, but they actually enjoy the process of learning, yeah. It also promotes innovation. So think about how your students in your classes are able to demonstrate novelty and inventiveness in their work. Okay, so what can we do to get the students to demonstrate their innovativeness, right? So that is when we can see their passion in learning. The fifth one is about the fifth one is passion-based learning can support collaboration. Yeah? Although we can see that passion is typically addressed as individual trait. So I may be passionate about something, Dr. Mahfuza may be passionate about another thing, okay, and the rest of us are passionate about several other things that may be unique and not similar, nothing similar to one another. But when we do it as a project based, okay, so individual learners or successful learners who can understand the critical importance of the team are usually those who are passionate, okay, passionate in the project that they are doing, passionate in something that they are working on, right? They always find ways to connect with others, you know, by laying a perfect brain, not sometimes not perfect, but they can lay a groundwork, okay, to demonstrate their ability to work effectively with a different team, okay, with different people with different needs, okay. They are flexible, but how do we get our students to do this, right? We will get to it in a little bit. Okay. Passion-based learning can also raise the standards, okay. think of an important project that you have been involved in. Yeah? So evaluating information for its accuracy and clarity is a critically important task to do or towards the job or the work. Yeah. So as students understand these high level skills, okay, they will struggle to think more critically about what they are doing with the project, okay, or with the work, okay, with their teammates, and they can actually raise the standards of the curriculum, standards of the learning, and finally, passion-based learning is able to encourage accountability. Okay, like what we have heard just now, okay, Mayes and Sandel says that passion is about ownership. Yeah, so it encourages accountability. They take responsibility of what they are doing. Since there are shifts in pedagogy, I think we need to know the learning theories that centers on passion. Okay, the learning theories that centers on passion can foreground passion-based learning. However, the learning theories that I'm going to share today is not limited to what I'm going to share today. All right. So there are more to it. Okay, these are just some of the learning theories that I can share with you. Okay. So these learning theories can explain how to teach in a way that would evoke passion and purpose in the learners. So the learners can actually unleash their passion, right? And they can see the purpose of why they are doing that thing, or of why they have to learn something. Okay. So the first one is the interest-driven creator theory. So according to the founder, Tak Wai Chan, he says that when students learn with interest, learning is enjoyable and effective. And creation makes learning productive and full of achievement. If we look at what Tak Wai Chan says here, we can see the characteristics of passion, interest, enjoyable, effective, creation. So these are all the characteristics of passion. All right. So according to the IDC, there are 3 loops in IDC. So the first one is the interest loop. The second one is the creation loop. And the final loop is the habit loop. But I'm going to share briefly on the interest loop. Yeah. So interest loop begins with triggering. Okay. So it is very critical for this learning process, because when students learn with interest, like Tak Wai mentioned, learning is enjoyable and effective. So triggering. So what are the first things that you can do with your students that can trigger their interest in learning, that can pique their curiosity? We can give something or some information to the students, but the information is ill-structured maybe, so that the students have questions. They want to know more, or they want to discover more, right? So that is triggering. We can pique their curiosity. Just like when we want to start a gossip. Do you know that? And then suddenly you say, oh, never mind, it's okay. So somebody will say, tell me about it, all right? Because they want to know what's actually happening. So that is something that you can do with your students. Okay, triggering. They trigger their interest, pique their curiosity. And then the second stage in the interest loop is immersing. What activities can you do with your students so that they can immerse in the learning process? Okay. What is meant by immerse? Okay. So I can say that immersing or immersion is characterized by showing invested interest in the lesson. They lost sense of time. Okay, when the bell rings, they say, "Oh, is the time up?" Okay, they lost passage of time. Yeah, they don't actually realize that the time has passed. Okay, 1 hour passed by just like 5 minutes to them. So that is characteristics of immersion. All right. They are willing to invest more. They're willing to, use their own money, okay, to get something. So that is immersion because they are fully immersed in the learning process. It's just like when we have a hobby, like Dr. Shukri mentioned just now, hobby. We are willing to invest a lot of money and time in our hobby, right? Let's say you like to fish, so you're willing to invest a lot of money, buying a fishing rod, go to invest your time, you spend your time at the lake or, with your friends, okay? You want to rent a boat. So that is immersion. Okay? So the same thing goes to the learning process. Students are immersed when they lost passage of time. They are willing to spend more time, willing to spend money in what they are doing. And finally is the extending stage, right? So what is extending stage? Extending is when the students are able to share what they do, okay, to other people, all right? They can relate with their real life experience. See? They can teach other people what they have learned in the classroom. They can say that, oh, I'm doing this is because when I go to work later on after I graduate, these are the skills that are important for me to learn or to know, to acquire. Yeah, so that is extending. All right. So that is the interest loop that consists of 3 stages of triggering, immersing, and extending. But it is not as simple as we can see here. Yeah? There's a lot of things going on in the classroom from triggering to immersing and finally to extending. All right. And the creation loop, the creation loop, if you can see, the creation loops, it consists of imitating, combining, and staging. Imitating means they are able to look at examples of how other people have been doing this, and then they can imitate, okay? Not plagiarize, but imitate, right? And then second stage is combine. Combine their knowledge, see what they have known from their readings, what they have learned in the trainings, okay? What they have heard, what they have read, okay? They combine everything, and then they can produce something. There is an artifact or an output from what they have learned. And finally, it goes to the final stage, which is staging. Staging means students not only present their work in the classroom, okay? There is a platform for the students to share what they have built or what they have created with not just their classmates, but with other people, with other people, all right? So as we can see here, the interest loop happens at every stage in the creation loop. Okay. Imitating, how do you trigger your students to imitate? How do you immerse your students? How do you let them extend their knowledge? Okay. And in the combining stage, there is also the interest loop. And at the staging stage, there is also the interest loop. All right. I will share with you my experience later that that combines the use of this loop. All right. You will get to that sharing session soon. Okay. There's also another theory called the experiential learning cycle. I believe in PrIDe online CPD, there's also webinars on experiential learning. So I'm going to touch just a little bit on the experiential learning cycle by Kolb. Yeah. But this diagram is taken from McLeod's work. So Kolb's experiential learning style theory is typically represented by a 4-stage learning cycle, okay? Concrete, experience, reflective observation, abstract conceptualization, and active experimentation. So it requires the learners to touch all of the stages, all of the stages. Doesn't matter where the learners start from, okay? But they have to complete all 4 stages for them to be able to experience learning. Yeah? So let's look at a concrete experience. It's a new experience or a new situation. So when students encounter a new experience or new situation, okay, this is called the concrete experience. And then they go to reflective observation of the new experience. Okay. What are the importances? What are the things that are important in the new experience? Okay. What are the things that are inconsistent between their new experience and their understanding that they have built before? All right. So they are new and old experience. So what are the inconsistencies? So this is where they do reflections. Okay. Reflective observation. And then abstract conceptualization. Okay. So abstract conceptualization is where the students conclude their learning from the experience. Okay. When the reflections give rise to new idea or a modification of an existing abstract concept, okay, it shows that the students have actually learned from their experience. So they can conclude, okay, from the new experience. And then we go to active experimentation, where the learners apply their ideas to the world around them to see what actually happened. So this is somewhat similar to the IDC theory. So how do we say that the learning is effective? So the learning, according to Paul, is effective when the students, okay, progresses through these 4 stages in this cycle. Okay. So that is what experiential learning cycle is. So according to Paul, yeah, he actually views learning as an integrated process. So where each of these stages are mutually supportive of each other. Okay, so they feed each other. So that is why there is no entry point for the experiential learning cycle. So a student can actually start from anywhere in the cycle as long as the student completes all the learning cycle. And the third theory that I would like to share with you today, but briefly, is the design thinking theory. So why do I share design thinking? Okay, because according to Nash, okay, the design thinking approach addresses the students not as receivers of information, but the shapers of knowledge, right? Not just merely receivers, but they shape the knowledge. So design thinking is a design methodology that provides a solution based on users' needs. Okay, based on users' needs. Okay, it starts with empathize, then it goes to define, ideate, prototype, and testing. So empathize is understanding people. What is the problem? What is happening right now? So we want to empathize, we want to understand what's happening, and we want to be able to be in the shoes of the people that we are working with, right? Second one is define. Once you have figured out, okay, what's the real problem, okay, you will define it here, okay? You distinguish the problem, you single it out. The third one is ideate. So you want to come up with a solution, but you need to generate your ideas first. So what do you want to do? How do you want to do it, right? And how does your idea help, okay, with the first step, okay? Help with the people that you want to help the people that you want to help, okay? The next stage is prototype. Prototype is coming up with something, okay? You create something and then you experiment with that something. So it may be an output of an artifact, okay? A project that you work on. Okay, you create and then you experiment on what you do, and finally you test and you refine the product that you have created. Okay, so now you may be thinking of why am I talking about design thinking, right? I will share my experience how I apply design thinking among my students and how it is related to passion-based learning. Again, if you have any questions, please just drop your questions in the chat box, or you can also unmute your microphone so that I can hear you, and you can ask your questions and I can respond. All right. So how do we unleash others' passion? I may be passionate about something, Dr. Mafuza may be passionate about something, but how do I unleash her passion? Right. In our classroom, we have students with so many diverse needs. So when do we have the time to discover their passion? Individually. You don't have time to do that, right? Okay. So actually there are options, yeah? There are two ways that teachers can instill passion in the classroom. Okay. First is you find out what each student is innately passionate about. Okay. So your task as the teacher or educator is to explore, identify, and structure learning so that it evokes passion and stimulate students individually, yeah, to learn and participate in the classroom. But this seems quite impossible to do, right? Especially if we have students that, especially because we teach for only one semester. So we do not have actually enough time to understand each and every student's passion. So this is when we go to the second option. So the second option is to be an instructor that exudes passion for the topic or for the lesson and infect your students with that excitement. Okay, we want our passion to be infectious to our students, right? So how do we infect our students? Okay. How do we infect our students? So that is the question that we do not know yet, right? The answer yet. So if you look at what Ramirez said, okay, only a few of us have benefited from the first option, obviously because we do not have enough time. But all of us can benefit from the second one. So now, since we are teaching a specific course, yeah, or specific subject, so that is where we can actually, okay, evoke our students' passion in our subject. Okay. First, we must have the excitement and enthusiasm in our subject so that our students will be interested in the subject that we are teaching. So that is the power of passion. I'd like to share a little bit on these two pedagogies or approaches to teaching and learning, which is project-based learning and problem-based learning. Because I somewhat discover that passion-based learning is somewhat a combination of these two, all right? So project-based learning and problem-based learning. So if we look at these two approaches, we can see that there are commonalities in between these two, okay? These two approaches to teaching and learning attempt to solve real-world problems. It is cross-disciplinary and heavy on skill building, okay, such as problem solving, critical thinking, empathy, creativity, and more. All right. But this is what I would like to propose. Yeah? This is what I would like to propose. So passion-based learning is somewhat a combination of these two, and it is more than what these two have to offer, right? So this is my take on passion-based learning. Okay, I may be right, I may be wrong. You can challenge, you can also suggest so that we can improve this, okay, from what we all understand about passion-based learning. So for passion-based learning, I would say that students pick their areas of interest or passion or strengths. Okay, every students have their own strengths. So students can pick their areas of interest. So we as the instructor, we give the context to our students. So the context would be something in the curriculum, okay, in our course curriculum that we are teaching. But the students, they choose the areas that they want to explore. The second one is that students and teachers co-construct the project. Yeah, so we do it together with the student. So this is where the zone of proximal development by Vygotsky comes in, where students, okay, will be able to achieve the objectives if they do it with a knowledgeable other. So that this is where the teachers co-construct, okay, the project with their students. So the teachers are not just facilitator, but they do it together with their students. They fill in the areas that the students are not sure or maybe do not know. Okay. Right. It is also transdisciplinary. It can also be multidisciplinary. Okay. For example, I'd like to share my experience. Okay, I have collaborated with Prof. Ramita from the Faculty of Computer Science for our courses, right? So she taught this course, augmented reality development, right? And for my students, I was teaching this course of educational technology. Diffusion of innovations, all right? So my students collaborate with her students from the Faculty of Science Computer, all right? And together they come out with a learning app, a learning app. So this is transdisciplinary. Okay, we let our students explore more than what we have to offer in the classroom. I think it's important for us to also remember that we do not know everything, all right? And we can invite other people to our classroom. We can also bring our students out of the classroom so that they can collaborate with other people so that they can have new experiences that is transdisciplinary and multidisciplinary. So my students get to know what is augmented reality. They get to know how to develop augmented reality apps. And Prof. Ramita's students get to know the learning design behind each app. Okay, so we do not simply create apps, mobile apps, but there is a learning design that foregrounds the development of the apps. So that is transdisciplinary or multidisciplinary. All right. And finally, passion-based learning focuses on student strengths, voice, and autonomy, right? But with guidance, of course, yeah, with our guidance. So it allows the students to share what they want to do, allows the students to make a choice, okay? Allows the student to tell or to justify why they make the choice. So that gives them strength and autonomy in their own learning. Right. So this is where we create our own brand of PBL. So what is PBL? It could be project-based learning, it could be problem-based learning, it is also passion-based learning, right? So passion-based learning, right, is grounded in the principles and philosophical tenets of project-based learning. But for me, I think problem-based learning is also included in the in passion-based learning. So by co-creating curriculum with students and using their strength and their interest as starting points, teachers help many students re-engage in learning and take flight into a more promising future after graduation. So this is what Robertson says, yeah? So in the process, these educators develop a model for what might be called in the future of curriculum design research, passion-based learning. So this is 2013. So of course, passion-based learning is now established, all right? So this is passion-based learning. I think we have a question here. Let me see. Dr. Fauzia, we do allow students to choose their own topic for a project, but most of the time their performance is affected by their lack of knowledge and poor sense of curiosity. Quite challenging to inspire them to be passionate about their work. Yeah, that is true, Dr. Fauzia. I would say that I do experience these kind of challenges as well. Sometimes I can feel that my students are not passionate in doing it. Yeah, so that also kills my passion. when teaching. Yeah, but what I can do is just to continue showing them my enthusiasm in it and try different approaches or try to ignite their interest in the lesson. So I actually prepared some workshops for my students. I will share about the workshops during my sharing session in my future slides uh, in a little bit more. Okay. I do understand your challenge. I face the same challenge as well. Okay, all right. So maybe I can just continue with this slide so that I can share what are the strategies that I carry out in my classroom. All right, Dr. Fauzia?
Thank you.
You're most welcome. All right. So BAL 2016 calls project-based learning as passion projects. Okay, passion projects. So we ask the students to do something that they care about. Okay, but the passion projects is something that responds to the students. Okay, something that responds to students. The passion projects shows that we as teachers, we actually value their experience and points of view. Okay, when we are able to show that and able to give them a platform for them to show their interest or their passion in something, okay, we are actually creating an inclusive and positive environment. And at the same time, it also provides experience for the kind of thinking and skills that is needed for their future careers. So if we can see that if positive interrelational conditions are established in our learning environment among the teachers and the students, okay, such as the sense of belonging, they have a trusting relationship between teachers and students. We practice collaboration and then ethics. Okay, so these are all can lead to an effective curriculum model for engaging our students in our classrooms. Okay, so now we have come to the session where I would like to share with you how I stumbled upon passion-based learning without knowing it was passion-based learning. Perhaps this is congruent with what Robertson had said. Okay, we do something that, and then it actually boils down to modeling passion-based learning. I hope you will be able to relate with my experience or my story, and then you will be able to apply similar strategies for your classroom. In the beginning, I realized that my approach to teaching and learning is project-based learning. But somehow throughout the semester, I realized that there is more to just project-based learning. But I only know what I have done is passion-based learning after I've made reflections, okay, at the end of the semester, right? So sometimes we jump onto something without knowing what we're doing, yeah, what it is, right? Okay, so for my students, I am teaching at PrIDe 341 Educational Technology. All right. So for my students in the beginning of semester, I would give them a course packet. So in the course packet, I outline all the assessments that they are going to do for the semester. So one of the assessments is creating educational games. So this should be project-based, and this should be done in groups of 3 or 4 students. So this project-based learning is a form of formative assessments for me, and it is a platform for my students to exhibit their knowledge in a novelty way. So instead of having a presentation, slide presentation, I ask them to embark on this project-based learning journey so that they can show and prove to me that they have actually learned, but in a novelty way. So during the first 2 weeks of the semester, I let the students propose a single page write-up of their idea, just a single page write-up of their idea or the project that they want to work on. But of course, I give them the context. It has to be related to gamification, okay? Because it is one of the topics in educational technology, right? And also, it is related to instructional design, also one of the topics in educational technology. So the students will propose, they have a write-up, they have to sketch their ideas, okay? And then when they are able to sketch their ideas, I can see that it is an indicator, yeah, actually, that they have a vision of what they want to do when they are able to sketch it. Sometimes it is too abstract, we do not know what they want to do. But when they are able to sketch, that means they have a vision, okay, of the output. So during this session, I let the students to present their ideas. Then I will throw some ideas. Okay, I will try to scaffold my students, okay, to help them move or to help them progress with their project. So I basically co-construct the project with my students. Okay, I make the students come to my office, make it compulsory for the students to come to my office and have a personal consultation time with me, right? Consultation time. Okay, so they propose, they make corrections, they show it to me, right? So this actually aligns with ZPD, Zone of Proximal Development, where we, or I, as the knowledgeable other, lead my students into the directions that we want. But they choose what they want to do with the project. Okay, so I give them a skeleton. It's very brief, and then they choose what they want to do. They choose the topic or the context of the game, okay, and then they will decide. So these are samples of the discussions that we had in the classroom. So this is the first, what we call it, it's not prototype, it's the mock-up, yeah, mock-up of the students' project. So we can see that the mock-up turns out into something like this. They finally turned it out into something like this, yeah. So these are the sessions the several sessions that I had with my students, right? So when I look at the efforts of my students and how they begin to immerse in the process, yeah, I decided to help them further. So I actually gave the incentives to kickstart the project because there's only 6 groups at that time. So I just gave them 10 ringgit each. So they are so happy to get 10 ringgit because to them it's an incentive for them to kickstart. So they begin to get materials for the project, and then they got more invested in the projects. I also get the students to write their reflections in their weekly portfolio. So this is an e-portfolio that my students have written. So this is an individual portfolio because different students have different experience, yeah, or they perceive their experience differently. So they wrote in their portfolio, okay, every week. Okay, I would like to highlight that their portfolio are also given marks. Yeah, I also mark their portfolio. So it is one of the assessments that I include at the beginning of the semester. So for instance, this board game is 30%, portfolio is 20%, example. Yeah. So this portfolio is given, is meant for the students to demonstrate their learning process and for them to show how they go through each and every design thinking, every stages in the design thinking process, from empathy to design, ideate, define, ideate, prototype, and up to testing. So this aligns with aligns with the experiential learning cycle, okay, where students make reflections. Okay, they reflect on what they have done. Okay, they wrote it down in their portfolio. They record what they have learned. Okay, so it doesn't matter what they wrote in the portfolio. It doesn't have to be something that they learn during the classroom, but also the experience outside of the classroom. So these students, diligently wrote their portfolio. I'm also thankful for that because the students are very supportive. All right. So how do I sustain my students' interest in the project? How do I get them consistently immersed and invested in the project? Because there are weeks that they say, oh, I'm tired because this is week 6, it's ujian satu, penilaian satu, we don't feel motivated, So I carry out workshops. So I love carrying out workshops for my students because I have this amali session. So during the amali session is where I conduct workshops. I like to see them as workshops, not just simply amali. So I organized a design thinking workshop where I invited experts from the Faculty of Architecture and Design, okay, and they brought their team of experts and facilitators to help my students, okay, to facilitate my students with developing their projects. It also serves as an effort to boost the progress of my students. So during the 3-hour workshop, we held it for 2 days. My students came to the classroom with all the materials, and we organized the design thinking workshop, okay, and the students co-create with the facilitators and co-create with me as well as the course instructor. So it kind of worked for my students. They managed to complete about 70% of their work during the design thinking workshop. And then after a couple of weeks, I also conducted a workshop on TPAC, okay, the technological, pedagogical content knowledge and instructional design. This is the workshop on instructional design to let the students best understand educational technology, which is the course that I'm teaching. Okay, and also because instructional design is one of the topics covered for their project. So we did a lot of activities for the students to get immersed in instructional design, okay, immersed in the process. So they have to go through the process for them to understand it. So that's what we did during the workshops. All right. So at the end of the workshops, okay, that spans over, I think, the workshops and throughout the semester, the students work on their projects. I think they took up to 10 weeks working on this project. Okay, they finally have their finished prototypes. So we had to test run. This is a picture of testing their projects. Okay, before the students go for a final presentation during the a program that I organized called the Innovation Showcase. All right. So this final test run is the time where I would evaluate my students' work and also give them feedback and suggestions on how they can improve their work for the final presentation. Okay, I would say that final presentation during the Innovation Showcase, which is the program that I organized, is not marked. I only marked them during the test run. So what is Innovation Showcase? So what is Innovation Showcase? Innovation Showcase is a program that I organized since 2015 until 2019. So this is the time where during the semester, I had this idea of getting my students to actually showcase their work to other people, not only in their classroom. Because I value so much, I value their time, their effort so much that I felt like it is a shame if they just present their work in the classroom. So somebody needs to see their work as well. I want them to feel appreciated. I want them to know that all their efforts are valuable, and other people need to see what they have done. They need to appreciate what they have done because they did a lot of, they invested a lot of time and effort into it. So these are the pictures of my students at Innovation Showcase. They even won medals. They even won. They won. Some of them won gold medals, silver medals, and bronze medals at Innovation Showcase. So this Innovation Showcase is actually a platform for my students to show their work, which aligns with the IDC theory, specifically the creation loop. Yeah, the creation loop, the final stage in the creation loop, which is staging. Yeah? So my students get the experience of presenting their work to a larger audience. Okay, there's even judges who came to evaluate their work. They also get acknowledgements and awards for their work. Yeah. So this innovation showcase, I would say that it's actually it turned into a faculty event, right? In 2015, when I started Innovation Showcase, there were only 18 students, okay, during Innovation Showcase. My students set up their booth at the foyer of our faculty, okay, and I bring some students from other courses. I team up with my friends whose courses are somewhat related to my students' project, and I team up with them and I invited them to the program, okay. We have 3 judges at that time, but my students did not get any medals like how we would get at other innovation competitions, right? But throughout the years, yeah, it turned into a faculty event. Okay, I team up with some of my friends who are teaching courses that is project based. Okay, that they have projects, and I invited them to Innovation Showcase. So we wrote a paperwork and proposed to our faculty. I know this is just a classroom project, but we needed financial support from the faculty because we want our students to win medals. All right, we want our students to have something extra in their CV or portfolio that they can show to others. Okay, some of my students even filed their projects for copyright. Yeah, so that is something extra that they get from this passion-based learning. So in 2019, okay, the last innovation showcase we organized before the pandemic. So we got a record of 500 participants for our program. So we have 8 events under innovation showcase. So one of them is of course the innovation competition where our students prepare or work on their projects, okay, and then they participate in innovation showcase. Okay, and then there's robotic competitions organized by Dr. CADe-Lead and 6 other events organized by my colleagues who are also passionate about their teaching. All right, so there are events that suits the courses that they're teaching, and then they make it big. They invite audiences to come to the events. So I can see that being around passionate people is the best way to become passionate. So I'm lucky because I have colleagues who share the same passion or somewhat similar passion with me. And for the Innovation Showcase is where I gathered my colleagues from different departments in the faculty, and we organized the program together. And I think it's important to know that a passion-driven teacher is a model for his or her students. So when we show that we're passionate about something, it will most likely impact our students. And teachers must be able to lead in the areas that they are passionate about. All right. So for instance, we have courses that we teach every semester. Yeah. So that courses are usually related to our expertise, and our expertise are usually related to what we are passionate about, right? I think it is also important to being transparent with our students, and important to build relationships with them beyond the classroom that can help drive learning. So it doesn't have to be just inside of the classroom, okay, but it could be beyond the classroom that can help students so that the students know that, oh, okay, our course instructor is approachable. Okay, it's okay to ask them. We are creating these things together, right? We are co-creating this. So we ourselves have to be approachable, so that students are comfortable to work with us, and then that drives or fuels their passion for something that we are something that we are also passionate about, right? May I know if there's any questions from the members of the floor?
We open for the questions. I like the phrase of passion is infectious. Yeah, Dr. Mas. Which I hope that this infection can be maybe spread all over the UPM. Okay, and I think perhaps you can maybe explain more about when we are having like online class nowadays, and perhaps for a few, for also for another semesters. So how can this passion-based learning can be actually sustained even though in the environment of the online learning, Dr. Mas?
Thank you so much for your question, Dr. Mahfuza. I admit that online learning is a challenge for all of us, yeah, for me, and I think for all of us as well. It's because it limits our ability to, conduct or to be interactive with our students. I admit that because in online learning, it's very common to see our students not interactive, very passive instead of passionate. They're very passive in the classroom. I just want to share what I did with my students. I think what I like to do is I like to conduct events. So why do I like to conduct events? Is because first I want my students to perceive the course or the class as not as a class. It's as something that they just attend, or something that is not too rigid, So I conducted events. All right, I conducted events. So, and the second one is that I acknowledge that I am not the person who knows everything, even for that course. And it is best to have experts or other people from other fields to our classroom. So that's the second one. The third one is letting my students have an intimate session with somebody who is renowned in the field. So when I conduct events, I usually invite professors or lecturers who is renowned in that certain field. Okay, I teach emerging technologies, okay, division of innovation in educational technologies and educational technology. So of course, I'm not the only one who knows everything. And of course, I do not know every technology. So that is why I invite experts from other fields so that my students will have a broader and wider perspectives of the content of the course or of the curriculum, right? So when I conduct events, it's usually among my students, okay, for these events throughout the semester. So that is how I sustain my students' interest, okay, or at least I thought I could sustain their interest. That is my effort for that. So we conduct events, and I involve my students in the events that I conduct. So for instance, I get my students to contact the experts. Okay, I get my students to contact the experts, and then they conduct interviews with the experts. They invite the experts to the events of in our classroom. So that's how I did. So these students, when they are in charge, they are actually involved in the session. So one event, I would give it to two students. So two students will be in charge of one event, and then the following week we'll have another event. So I would usually have a minimum of 4 events in each semester for my students, so that they will not feel bored looking at me. You know, I was the only one who delivers everything. So that's how I did it. But you know, I believe our audiences today, they have several other events. I will also welcome the audience to share if you have anything to share. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And here is also a question from Dr. Muhammad Haizin. Right, how to prioritize the thing you passionate the most while you have many things to do.
Thank you, Dr. Kaizi. He is one of my colleagues who actually worked with me for the Innovation Showcase. So actually, it's not easy to prioritize the things that I'm passionate on while having so many things to do. But I think this goes back to the questions that I asked the audience in the beginning of the webinar about what is passion and what are you passionate about, right? So passionate is, you know, you when you're passionate about something, you actually will work for it. Yeah, like our hobby, when we like something, we will find the time to do it. Okay, and we will work to achieve it. And usually, what gives the booster is when we have colleagues who are also passionate about something, about that thing. It's the same thing. All right. I do admit that there are times that I was not able to carry out everything that I have shared with you all today, but I will take the time to at least do 50% of what I have, envisioned to do for the semester. It's not easy to prioritize, but I think when we are passionate about something, we will put that in our priority. I think it's similar to other people as well. You will make time for something that you like. Mhm. Thank you, Dr. Kaizi.
Assalamualaikum, moderator Dr. Mahfuzah dan Dr. Masnida.
Ya, Dr. Salah.
Saya ada soalan.
Okay.
Dr. Mas, macam mana ya kalau contohnya macam tadi ada project kan, how do you assess the students throughout the semester ya? Because I think I can see if you're working on a product, for example, you have like those board game design. So I consider that as a product. But what do you do? What do you assess throughout the semester? Like weekly? Do you assess teamwork or anything like that? And how would you do it?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Salah. That's a good question. So how do I assess it? So in the beginning of the semester, when I was designing the course packet, I was designing the assessment, I also come out with a rubric. So this rubric, I will include it in the course packet so that my students can look at the rubric and they can plow through the rubric. So they can do a self-assessment, so they can look at the rubrics and look at, oh, this is where my project is at. So I think I need to move, plow through the rubric so that I can move to a higher level, level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, for instance. But of course, I would name it as, uh, uh, advanced or maybe, satisfactory, something like that. All right. But these rubrics are built based on the course outcome. And the assessments that I give to my students are also aligned to the course outcome. So for instance, if the course outcome is about leadership, for instance, leadership or teamwork, teamwork. So I will look at the course outcome, and if it's teamwork or leadership, then we will let the students to work in groups, and then I will look at how they collaborate with one another. So those are spelled out in the rubrics. So the characteristics of each learning outcome or course outcome is spelled out in the rubric that I created and shared with my students. It's not easy, but it is doable. So for projects that covers 2-3 topics, okay? For instance, the board game. This is just one of the projects that my students have done throughout the years. So for the board games, let's say it covers 3 topics. So I will look at the objectives for each topic and align with the course outcome. And then I will write down the rubrics, and also I write elaborative instructions to my students of what is expected from them in the course packet. So for instance, assessment 1, it's e-portfolio. So I will give them guiding questions that will help them write the e-portfolio. And the guiding questions are based on the interest-driven creator theory, or are based on the design thinking theory. So those guiding questions are derived from these theories, so that the students, when they try to answer the questions, they are able to write their e-portfolio or their reflections. So that's for e-portfolio. And then for the board game, I give them elaborative instructions of how the board game should, of the output, okay, how it should look like or something like that, what is expected from them. Okay, but the board games must include the instructional design process. So for instance, CADe or Assure, right? So for CADe and Assure, one of the models of instructional design, okay, so the board games must include that. And they have to actually come out with a sort of lesson plan, okay, of how to use the board game. So it's not merely a board game, you just play it and then you gain nothing, but you learn something throughout throughout the game. So that's how I do it. And then I write the rubrics based on the instructional design. And if CADe is 5 stage, then 5 rubrics, if the students can achieve each and every stage of the CADe model, for instance. It's meticulous, it's a lot of work, but I think at this point, I'm satisfied with what I did with my students.
Okay. Oh, terima kasih Dr. Mas. Saya dapat 2 point tadi. Satu rubrik, satu lagi e-portfolio. I think e-portfolio is a good idea jugalah, supaya they can record their progress throughout the semester kan.
Yes,
okay. Alright. Oh, satu lagi, bukan soalan tapi ini lebih kepada lamaran lah. Kalau Dr. Mas Anida ada nak ajar lagi subjek emerging technologies saya maybe ada projek juga kalau boleh collaborate. So itu je lah lamaran saya.
InsyaAllah boleh. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's so nice of you. Yeah, InsyaAllah we can think of that. Yeah. So it's important to collaborate, so that your students can have a new experience. So we are in education. We are basically consumers, users of technology. But when our students are able to collaborate, they know how the technology works, okay, how to develop something. So it's very nice when we get to collaborate with others. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Salah.
No worries.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much, Dr. Salah. I just want to share, Dr. Mas, about some remarks from the YouTube, okay, by Dr. Mazni. The Mazni also mentioned that passion is love, okay, and Dr. Rahima also tell us here that teaching isn't my job, it's my passion.
Oh,
Okay,
okay,
so that's
nice.
a wonderful phrase, I think, that can actually inspire us, okay, to be more passionate, okay, towards the teaching and learning process here. And I think we also now still open for the questions, right, Dr. Mas?
Yes, yes.
From the others. There are also some more questions. Okay. Okay, the webinar session online attendance is also available in the chat box from the Zoom, on the Zoom, and also from the YouTube chat box. Okay, you all can fill in the form provided by CADe. And I think we can also, I will also leave here you can also go to the website of CADe, okay, to look more on the PrIDe, okay, the one that you have. One of the authors also, I think, prepared by Dr. Mas. Okay, and then you also have maybe more series about this PrIDe. Okay, and I hope that with this patient-based learning, it's a good start. Okay, a good start, Dr. Mas. Okay, for all of us here to be more infection with this patient-based learning. Maybe before we end, I think I will wrap up a little bit about what I have learned, and also maybe also all of us here. Where I can see here that the patient is a never-ending effort, right, Mas? And then, yeah, I think Dr. Mas also have something here to say before we end, Dr. Mas?
Oh no, I just go ahead, Dr. Mahfuza.
Okay, all right. Okay, so also have learned that from the webinar just now, that many actually ideas or many things that we can do so that we can unleash the passion of our students, such as doing a workshop. Okay, this is something which is very interesting. Okay, that Dr. Mas have done, and she also did the co-creation with the students, not also she and the students, but also with the other experts. That is very interesting also. And doing like an innovation showcase is, I think, can be a good motivation to our students so that they can have passion in their learning as well. And the thing that you can have your students as a role play, okay, to give them a role play so that they can be passionate, okay, to what they are learning, okay, towards the learning that they are following, guess what, the class, and also outside of the class as well. Okay, and I think maybe Dr. Mas also want to say something or other things, perhaps, Dr. Mas?
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Mahfuza. Thanks for the recap. It's so nice and concise. So I just want to say that everyone is a geek for something. So every one of us is a geek for something, and everyone has a passion for something. So what we can do is we can make that something learning, okay? And if we can infect our students with passion, they will never be able to continue again. Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much thank you so much for having me, Kate, and thank you so much, Dr. Mahfuza, for moderating the session today. You may contact me anytime at my email address over here. It's CHAMASNIDA kamasnida@upm.edu.my. Ini bukan kamasnida at upm.edu.my. So I'm to share with all of you. Thank you so much.
I think maybe the slides will be shared by the kid. Perhaps the state secretary can respond on this, on the slides.
Yes, I'm sure Kate will put this up on the website.
Yes, yeah, we have that normally in the Kate website also. Okay, you all can follow. Maybe also the YouTube channel. Okay, Kate UPM. Okay, you can follow that and subscribe. Okay, so you can also share whatever the information that we have here to the rest, so that all these patient infection, okay, can be spread, okay, all over the UPM and also outside of the UPM as well. So very excellent sharing also, Dr. Mas. We are learning, we have learned a lot, and hope that this will not end here. We will try our best later on, okay, to be more passionate on that, okay, and I'm sure that all of us who are watching here now is also passionate lecturers, passionate teachers as well. Okay, so thank you very much for all. Thank you also, Kate, for organizing this webinar. And thank you for all the participation okay, from all the audience here. Okay, thank you for the questions that have been given, which are also make us actually more passionate now, okay, on this passion-based learning. Okay, so with that, okay, Prof. Iqbal say, okay, kind of equation does not require self-quarantine. Yes, of course. Okay, it need to be spread, in fact, okay? All right, so let's impact all this, okay, together and ever. All right, okay, so with that, thank you very much, and sorry for all, and that's from the webinar that we organized today. And before we leave, let us all recite Surah Al-As and Tasbih.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum. Dr. Mas. Thank you, Dr. Zakia.